Good afternoon, beloved community. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. We have a very special guest. Shaun Burton is joining us today. He is a digital warrior and a volunteer for Targeted Justice, and he's going to share his targeted experience with us this afternoon. So let's kick off with a few announcements before getting into the news and bringing up Shaun. I want to continue to give a shout out to Target Source LLC. Armando is just wonderful. He had built these devices to help with his wife's targeting experience, and Armando himself also has targeting, especially gang stalking as well. But these devices, I'm telling you, are wonderful. I personally use the Silent Night. It is a protective biofield that interferes with the frequencies being used against you. And for me, I have the V2K and the directed energy, and it does give me quite a bit of relief. I use it every single night. And I have recently tested the SK Great Reset Zapper. And I found that it really does provide a lot of relief for the pain. As well, and he also has Dr. Clark Zapper, which helps with killing any kind of parasites or bacteria or fungal, and it's built off of the papers that Dr. Clark had published before she passed, and she lived to be in her 90s, so she was doing something right. So I want to make sure that I point out the email address because there seems to be a lot of shadow banning going on, with the communications for Target Source, and it's silentnight.source@gmail.com. All right, and then I also want to give a shout out to www.tievents.org. This is how you stay connected and you stay plugged into the community. Everything that you need to know about all the events, and there's always many of them going on throughout the week. And so make sure that you just visit that website, and the latest and greatest is there. If you yourself are hosting a event for the targeted community within your area, please give Tranquility a shout out at tievents@protonmail.com, and she will get your event posted. All right. All right, so I just wanted to announce the upcoming guests. We had a schedule conflict with Valdemir. He is rescheduled for May 25th, and he is the VP for Latin for Targeted Justice. So that will be May 25th. And graciously, Shaun was available to join me today. On the 27th of April, Lindsay Penn, host of Victory through V2K and VP and PR and Communications for Targeted Justice, will be joining us. On May 4th, Gryphon Herchko, he is a research and journalist with dewagency.org. He is just amazing at articulating the very complex technologies that this targeted experience it involves, in what his own story. It's actually going to be a series between me and him, and that's going to kick off on May 4th. I'm so excited for him to join. May 11th, Chris Metlin, who is our VP of Middle East and Africa for Targeted Justice, will be joining. And on May 18th, Harold Brems, who is our VP of Europe for the Targeted Justice. Very exciting opportunity to introduce the officers of Targeted Justice to the community. We have TIs all over the world, and we just want you to know that you're so supported, and we are building up presence all over the world to fight the good fight and get that knowledge out about these targeting programs. I also wanted to mention that the bi-weekly working sessions on Saturdays with Jamie Rice, the next one is going to be April 26th, and that is the TI combat training. This is how you can build that cryptographic mind and resilience to counter the V2K, to counter the technologies, the mind control. It is, by diving into the inner self and the healing and making, measurable action steps toward reclaiming your life and your well-being. This is what the combat training is all about. With every system, there is a back door. And the back door, since it is heavily all about the mind control technology and the mind being the center focus here, is that we are using our own mind, which is under attack, to counter the mind control programs through doing this inner work and these practices and exercises that Jamie discusses. Chosen Heroes is looking for your feedback, as always, volunteers and guests. If you have any suggestions, would like to volunteer, or if you would like to share your story with the community, please reach out to me at chosen_heroes@proton.me. Please give me some grace in responding to communication. I have Shaun as a volunteer, and another volunteer recently joined and is getting up to speed. But for the most part, I'm a one-woman show when it comes to all of this, but I'm fortunate that people in the community want to help me because I also do work. So please give me some grace on responses. And on the screen, here are all the ways that you can reach the Chosen Heroes. And please connect and join in. So before we get to our special guest, let me play one of the videos that Shaun produced for Targeted Justice, which is the week in review for news. He does such an amazing job on these videos. So I wanted to share this one with all of you.
It's that time again for the Targeted Justice newsletter, the video edition. April 16th, 2025. Richard Lighthouse talks about the analog gas meter and how it can be used to prove that you are being illegally tracked by Lockheed and Boeing GPS satellites. It is likely that everyone in the world is being tracked. Yes, it is grossly illegal. Go to the following link on rumble.com and watch this short, 8-minute video, and please share it on social media. A few days ago, an article on the GatewayPundit.com, written by journalist Jim Hoft, was about how Targeted Justice exposed the gang-stalking program in a letter to Secretary Noem. Now, we need your help by sending the article to multiple news outlets. You can go to the following link above, which has a list of news sites that you can email them. The more exposure the program gets, the faster we will get it shut down. Let's do this! Don't forget, we have a site that houses over 500 previous newsletters for Targeted Justice. They're free and available 24/7. Any questions that you may have about the program and your targeting more than likely have already been answered if you read through the articles. By going to targetedjustice.substack.com and going to the magnifying glass at the top, you can type in a keyword or phrase, and it will pull up the related article. It's that easy. Calling all digital warriors. Please share, repost, copy and paste this video and the text of this newsletter onto Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social, TikTok, etc. They will block it if you just post the link. We are still looking for volunteers. Let us know how you can help. What skill sets do you have? Write to tjustice2@proton.me. Put volunteer in the subject line. You can watch targeted justice videos on Rumble by going to the following link, https://rumble.com/user/real-targeted-justice/channels. Please consider donating. Targeted Justice is nonprofit. The donations are tax deductible. Go to either https://pay.cornerstone.cc/targetedjustice or https://www.patreon.com/targetedjustice. You can also send a check to Targeted Justice, P.O. Box 15990, Houston, Texas 77220. Buy some cool gifts and t-shirts from Targeted Justice store by going to https://targeted-justice.printify.me/products or https://www.bonfire.com/store/targeted-justice-products. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. God bless.
Wow, that was just so great. I'm just so energized, even excited watching that. Shaun just does a wonderful job. So as always, I'm going to lead in before our guest and with prayer. And I thank you, God. I thank you for the opportunity and for you pathing the way for the chosen heroes to come into fruition. It was only by your grace and by your path that you created this for the community. I'm just a humble servant to deliver your messages, Lord. Yes. And I thank you for our special guest, and I thank you for covering him and his protection, and for guiding him as well as all of us in the community. This community is so special, and I know that many people have been under heavy attack recently. And God just says, be patient because my hand is on this situation. And what has been done in darkness will be brought into the light. Cannot go on in the guise of truth and not bring it all forward. So God asks that we stay and we remain patient for him to continue to be pushing through this, because there's lots of deep roots involved in these programs. And our attacks that have come here recently is only a result of how much of a difference we are truly, truly making. The waves of awareness, the light and the truth, engulfing the darkness. I thank you, God, that you seed hope in those who feel hopeless. And for those who feel lost, I ask that you guide them and give them the steps they need to take in the action to reclaim their self-worth and their lives. There is no reason to lose hope. We have such a vast community, and they are all plugged in, and they are so willing and eager to help and assist and to give and share their knowledge. Such a blessing to have such a good community. And in the days ahead, God, I ask that you continue to cover us all in your protection. And we will continue to keep the torch of the good fight and the light burning as you do the heavy lifting for us. We thank you, God. Amen. Glory. All right. Hi, Shaun. Thank you again so much for being available today to join in. I'm just excited that you are a guest. And can you explain to us, when did you realize that you were being targeted and that you were a targeted individual? What year did this all occur, and what happened?
Well, I found out I was targeted when when I kept seeing the same people following me around everywhere. But I guess so I knew I was a targeted individual, I would say back last year,
Mm-hmm.
back in like around April, May 2024. because I was, so to back it up a little bit, I was originally in St. Louis, and I noticed that it ramped up. Like it started off with a few people because I kept seeing the same people, regardless if I was going to the mall, grocery store, movie theater, whatnot. And it was people, some of the people I had like issues with, but I knew that at first I thought they were just trying to mess with me and they'll eventually leave me alone. But then it started to spread out. I started to see different people follow me. They're wearing like all black, same hoodies. They would mock me, my body movements if I made certain gestures. And it got to a point where I didn't know what to do. I went to the police. They wouldn't really do anything, or at least they say they would do something or fill out a police report, but nothing would get done. It got to a point, I think the worst of it was I do ride share, and I got stuck. I got carjacked at gunpoint, and they stole my car. But then a couple of days, the cops found it, and it was pretty much totaled. So I ended up having to buy and get another car, and that was kind of like the worst for me because I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm more of a TI light from what someone explained to me. I don't have V2K, or I don't get attacked by direct energy weapons. But anyway, while I was in St. Louis, I figured, well, maybe if I move to another state that I could get away from it. And at the time I was getting laid off from my current job anyway. So I was a contractor, and the only other job that I could do under that contracting company was out in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Moved out, and barely like a couple of hours in, it just picked up again. Specifically, people, I'm getting mob stalked, constantly seeing ambulances and fire trucks driving back and forth. And I just, at that point, I just pretty much broke down. Like because I could usually come up with a solution on my own, figure it out, and get out of the get out of the problem. But this one was just, it broke me. I had all made up all these plans about moving out, trying to start a new life, but I thought it was just, I would never get away from this. And I got to the point where I wanted to take my own life. I like stopped off at some, one of those hardware stores, got a hose. I put it into my tailpipe, and I would have left my car running. I just found a random parking lot, and I was going to, end it there. But luckily my parents reached out to me. I tried to tell my parents, they don't believe me. My mom would always say, well, did you pray to God? Did you talk to God? And, I always got so frustrated because it's like, it's not going to work. But, at that point I was desperate, and I was at that point where I wanted to reestablish a relationship with God in the first place. So I didn't have much else to lose.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I took each day slowly. I read like one chapter from the Bible a day. I started watching different YouTube videos of Christian YouTubers and different preachers, and I'm slowly easing me into it. I still didn't know what was going on, but just that intense, like, what am I going to do? I can't get away from this. It slowly like dissipated. And the more I learned about God, the more I slowly trusted him to lean on him. And, I kept praying that this would end, or at least get some answers. And then slowly but surely, I couldn't Google initially. When I Googled it or tried to look for it, I couldn't find anything. But slowly I was able to find like information of the people talking about targeted individual. And that's when I met up with Doug Jones, saw his Gangstalking show. And then I think in one of his videos, he brought up targetedjustice.com. I went to the Targeted Justice website, and at the time they were having that targeted action in 2024 in Colorado. So I decided to, pack up and drive out there. And that's where I met Anna and Richard Lighthouse and other TIs. And that's when it was some other person who said that, oh yeah, you're a TI light, because they were asking me about, do I have a Violent syndrome, which I probably do because I forget a lot of things, but I don't have the V2K. I don't have any chips or, get attacked by any direct energy weapons. But the reason you were asking me about when I found out when I was a TI, that's when I found out, because I didn't know what was going on. That's when I found out what TI was and everything. But originally I would have said that I was maybe targeted back in 2022, 21, because that was a situation I had at a previous job and it just followed me. But looking back at how gang stalkers act and stuff like that, I think it happened. I may have been targeted much earlier in my life, maybe back in my 20s. The only difference was it wasn't as rampant.
Right.
It would only happen like maybe every once in a while. But I always kind of brush it off like, it's just that, that one bad situation. But the fact that it keeps happening constantly all the time, every day, it's like, okay. Because a lot of people don't even know that they are targeted. So that's probably what my situation is. So that's why I was kind of like, answer it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, people might just think that it's just a string of, repetitive bad luck. But then when it starts to ramp up, like you said, then you know that something is just off. And I was going to ask, because you had stated to me that you've been in IT and that's the type of work that you do, information technology, and you referenced a business. I know that my targeting began because I'm kind of a back-end systems person for HR and payroll and like the, security and things of that nature. I know that my experience started out with gang stalking from that business. So was there anything that you may have seen or, anything particular with that company that might have triggered these people to ramp up your, what was being done to you in terms of gang stalking? You think there might be a connection?
Yes. So usually I keep to myself, and I don't really talk that much. And of course, you always have some people that who have issues. And I got bullied at one of my previous jobs, and I was just going to pick up and leave, but a good friend of mine at the time said that you should say something because that's not right for what they're doing. So that's what I did. I talked to my manager and HR about it, and of course they didn't like it, and all it did was just worsen the bullying. I did end up leaving that job, but I was still mad and irritated about it. So I went on like those job boards where you can leave job reviews about your experience in employment, and I posted it there. And I did end up seeing one of the previous employees I worked with at a grocery store. Of course I didn't interact. I thought it was just a coincidence, and I didn't want to have any desire to interact. But then my next job, I was in IT, and it started off with this one guy, and of course I thought he was bullying again, and I didn't really connect anything. I got really upset because it's like, why am I keep getting bullied everywhere? But he would make maybe snide remarks about how I wasn't that smart or lack intelligence. But the one thing, so the one thing that kind of, I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. The thing that kind of broke the camel's back for me with him was I was working on a computer. This was back when COVID was kind of at its height. And while I was working on the computers, I felt something kind of wet on the back of my neck and shoulder, picked it up, and it was a chewed up gum. And there was the guy he was just laughing his butt off. Thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like he took gum out of his mouth. And of course, and at the time, it was mostly guys in there, and it was like a boys club. We made a lot of off-color jokes and stuff like that. But it got to the point where I laughed it off at the time, but then looking back at it, I was like, I can't do this. And he's like crossed the line. Went to one of my managers, talked to him about it, and I don't know what punishment he did, but he did make him go travel to another site in another state just temporarily to work on it. And then a few weeks later, the guy attempted to try to be nice to me, but without getting too much into it, there was another situation that happened prior, which I tried talking to him about, but he just kind of brushed it off. And he was always scared thin. So as far as I'm concerned, this is just a game to him. But after a few weeks of him attempting to be nice, and I guess when he's starting to see that I wasn't, falling for it or whatever, that's when he started gang stalking. He would start mocking me. He would follow me everywhere. It didn't matter wherever I went on site, at the work site, he was always there. And then he started getting other people to do the same thing. Some people who used to be nice to me either acted like they were scared of me, or they just was mean to me out of nowhere, which didn't really made any much sense. And I ended up having to leave. So, but that's the situation, because I was very passive when I was younger, and I knew I was kind of going through that transition of trying to speak up for myself. So if I saw something that was wrong, I would try to stand up for myself and kind of report it. But I guess that's kind of what escalated the gang stalking. So
I can relate with that too, because when I had someone from the company's leadership threaten me that if I kept, bringing awareness to my findings to her superiors, that there was going to be a very negative consequence in my life. And that was very, very much a true statement. I very much too know about how the group mobbing within an office environment, people that were always friendly to me, participating in it. I even had one person tell me that the CFO was encouraging them to do what I was doing, that, to do what they were doing because it was working. Because, you're like going, why are people doing this? Even, stating like where I could hear it, that, moving things around on my desk, saying that they spat in my water when I was in the bathroom. And so, I mean, it really was and even because they weren't really bright about it, they were even saying that their risk manager was saying it was, all of this is to invoke that fight or flight response in a person. And I mean, it was just really, really like, it was so immature.
yeah.
And it was just, it's ludicrous, that people would go to this. But then, telling what was told to them to participate in this. But that's where, you should have that moral compass within you to not bully and to taunt someone and to do and participate in it. Because to me, people that participate in something like gang mobbing somebody or stalking somebody, there has to be something really broken inside of them that is unreconciled for them to get joy or satisfaction out of being harmful to another human being.
Well, see, and the thing about that is, and I guess I can attest to this because I was on that side as far as, as people, if you try to look for something to break the law, like you may drive through a red light or, you know, uh, you know, tell a white lie, because I think that's what a lot of people view gang stalking like. Yeah, it's maybe bad, but it's not that big of a deal because they don't understand how effective it can be. Because for them, they thinking, oh, I'm just walking around and wearing a certain color shirt or doing whatever. It's not that big a deal. I'm technically not breaking the law, which they're not. But if you are if you're in a specific area because you exchange information of the whereabouts of that person, the law is broken there because you are participating in stalking. So, but I think that's where people think they're trying to, cut corners. And
Yeah, and they may not understand the big picture when they're just getting a gift card or whatever incentive that they're doing there, or maybe they're like Doug had mentioned, maybe they're just role playing. They think that it's just a role playing exercise, right? Because I mean, it was deceptive. But the ones that are actually taunting and stuff, and again, they could be thinking they're role playing too, in that regard. But then there's the ones that are maybe told something, not true, and they're taking that false information as the truth from the person who's instructing them to do it, thinking that they're actually being helpful in some way. There's just such a variety of ways that they can enlist these people into committing these gang stalking. I would be followed wherever I went. And even if I would try to go to lunch and just sit in my car and eat a protein bar, and then when I would get back, then there would be is she back? Did she sit in her car again with her protein bar? I mean, just the silliness, but what that is trying to break someone down mentally, because when you're mentally worn out from it, not understanding it, because the shock value of why is this happening to me? What did I do? I didn't do anything. Why would somebody attack me in this way? It's the conditioning to get you so into that vulnerability to set up the attack on you, and to again drive you into doing something that is not in the best for your own health or well-being, or have you act out so that they can convict you or charge you or fire you with from doing so when you're only standing your ground. So it's really a delicate way, but it's so unnecessary to do this kind of things to people amongst the whole program. And to me, it feels like they're just testing reactions and responses, and we're like, the test subject, and it goes into a collective data collection and analysis of, okay, here's this age group and what have you, and this is how the majority responds within each type of classification, because you can tell I'm an analyst, but I'm like, what are they doing with this information? How is this helpful? Other than to just invoke terror into someone, to get them mislabeled, misdiagnosed, and character assassinate them, so that even though they hold truth, nobody will pay attention.
Yeah, and I think also people just have given up, and as far as like in humanity and just in the law system, because to be fair, excuse me, to be fair, the last few years was pretty much a joke. Like the law system's a joke, because I remember, and of course, part of this was contributed to when I was being targeted, but I had plenty of issues when my car was vandalized or messed up, and I would call the cops, and it was rare that they would actually show up. They would just say, well, you can put a police report over the phone, or you can go online and put it there. And, it's just kind of sucks because you feel like no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to take it into your own hands and kind of be a vigilante. I think that's what people are thinking they are doing, is just trying to come together to take the law into their hands. So
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very disappointing. I know I went through that myself when, I called out to the police and FBI about the threats and everything I was receiving, and there was no hope or help there. There was only threats from the local police department, but as I've stated, the owner of the business was on the foundation committee for the police. So he had a lot of tentacles into everything in this community, and the state itself even served as a committee member for Bush and Obama.
yeah,
So I mean, again, it's a misuse of power and control to do that to somebody who was not even a threat to them. So, the truth, I was told by a coworker that was involved with being asked to do this, is that they didn't know how much I found out. So that's why they needed to do this to me.
yeah. And I think, yeah, and that's the other thing, because this is the problem when you become a gang stalker or any type of criminal. You're going to be paranoid because you're constantly looking over your shoulder, worrying about, who is this person? Because like I said, I keep to myself, and I think it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, because it's like, why is he so quiet? And why does he always, like, how come he never wants to go out? Because my thought process is, I mean, I'll talk and interact with people at work, but I like to keep my personal life away from my work life, so,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's what kind of motivates people, because if I'm not, I think certain people, they try to think they have everyone calculated and they know what to say or do to kind of make them do what they want. And if you don't fall in line, then, oh, something's off with you or something's wrong with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to keep my eye on it. Excuse me.
No worries.
But yeah, that's just, but it's kind of funny when Doug Jones talked about how they would bring in actors, because I remember this one gang stalker. This is probably the thing that messed it up, where I started to think, yeah, these gang stalkers are a joke. There was this one, I was coming home, I was driving up to my complex, and I saw this guy like yonder away. He was Caucasian, bald, wearing sunglasses. He was just standing there facing, off the different direction. And then he starts walking a few steps, stops, then he walks backwards, and he mouths, it looked like he mouthed the word sorry. So yeah, I guess he missed his mark. And then he kept on walking. So I guess he was a newbie and didn't know what he was doing as far as gang stalking, and I just thought that was pretty funny. But stuff like that, I think the more you know about this program and educate yourself, it takes
Exactly.
the oomph out of it. So
It
that's
sure does.
Mhm.
It sure does. Once you're on to the game, then you can counter it and know that it's just all part of the pattern. Because really, once you get the patterns down of how these things work and when they do what and what to expect, to me, the most crucial point in time is when it all first begins.
Yeah.
And then for those that evolves into other things like for me, I had the gang stalking. Then it went into the V2K, and then it went into the directed energy. Because again, the element of what I was up against with this millionaire and stuff who had unlimited resources, and I highly suspect is a private security company and in cahoots with also the agencies
Yeah.
that had persisted. Mine's been since 2012. So, but when you start seeing those patterns, and it kind of destroys the power that it has over you, because this is part of their game,
Mm.
and no reaction is the worst thing that you could do with these type of tactics that they throw at us. So you had mentioned that you had stumbled upon Doug Jones's that gang stalking show, and then that's how you found out about targeted justice and led you to the Colorado event,
Mm.
and that is where you then became aware that okay, you are targeted, you're experiencing the gang stalking. But what
Yeah.
led you into starting to do the volunteer work?
I just got tired of the gang stalkers BS to be with
Mm-hmm.
you, because I, you know, I it was part of it was my ego, because I didn't want to feel like I'm being taken advantage of or bullied anymore. So, I I before I even knew how to deal with gang stalkers, I had an idea that this is why they're doing this, because they're trying to get me so upset that I'll say or do something to get me put in jail. Now, I will sometimes sometimes I ignore them, but other times I'll just try to intimidate them, kind of give them a dirty look and stuff like that. But but now once I understood the whole gang stalking thing, it's not going to be as effective, because that's what they're trying to go for. They try and get your attention, just your attention alone. And like I said, that's what Doug Jones went over about street theater. His analogy was, if you were going to a movie, or you were making a movie and people don't go see the movie, that movie's going to die because it's not making you money, because you're not paying attention to it. And it's the same concept. But going back to the question for the digital warrior, I wanted to find ways to fight back, and
Mm-hmm.
Target Adjusted provided a lot of that. And I am forever grateful for Targeted Justice, because they're the ones that the organization that is constantly fighting, but not having you do it in like a violent way, but in a peaceful protest. And also they are, religious and believe in God as well. So that's what made me want to help out as much as I can. So I know if this is how I supposed to hurt the gang stalking and gang stalkers, then that's what I'm going to do, hit them where it hurts, so to speak. So that's what motivated me to kind of start posting on X, reposting everything. And then what was it? I think it was your show with Richard Lighthouse, when he talked about the 9 different ways he believes the program will end, and that I
Mm-hmm.
figured, okay, well, let me kind of split these up into clips, and then kind of re-edit them and start posting them so I can get more TIs to watch them, because I know that, and we've talked about this before. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
people have very short attention spans. They're not trying to. If they're on social media, they constantly scrolling. It's kind of like you are watching you're on TV and you just constantly clicking through the channels looking for
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly.
But and that's what YouTube has. YouTube has these shorts that's usually not more than 30 seconds. So I figured, let me do that with your show. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's when you contacted me, like, hey, you want to edit videos for me? Like, sure.
And
Now,
you've done a wonderful job. Yes, because yeah, like you said, you're making it more digestible. I mean, we cover a lot of topics, and then you're taking these key moments and highlights, and then that way, if someone is interested, then they can refer back to the full length video as well. So you're doing just a fantastic job, and I just love what you've done with the week and review for the targeted justice. I would like to play that every week on the Chosen Heroes, because it's just so well done, and it's so much more engaging than just reading a slide presentation. You get the visual and the audio, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, yeah, and that's what my goal was. Like when I started doing the target justice letter, I can't remember, because I know everyone learns different ways. Like some people are better at reading, some people are better at listening, and I kind of always ask myself, what would I like to learn, or how to approach this? And I like to watch videos, so and that's what my goal was. And I'm glad that you do find it engaging, like, and it does kind of energize you, because that's what I was trying to go for. I was trying to make it, more fun
yeah.
and kind of get you into it. Like I love
Yes, I love the music element
yeah,
of it. I'm just a music person, so I was like,
me
oh,
too.
I'm digging this. And then you get the audio, you get the visual
Yeah,
and the speaking with it too, and your tie-ins with the graphics and the images and the, real, the live interactions too. And it's great, very catchy. I love it.
yeah. I'm
It's
trying
good
to,
content.
yeah, because I get excited when I get to put the music, because I just love the beginning with the number countdown, and then
Yeah.
the introduction, because you just get so excited, and that's what I'm trying to give to everyone else. And real quick, I'm a movie buff, and
Mm-hmm.
I just love watching movies, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a movie and get people
Mm-hmm.
into it. So
Yes, and I appreciate the work that you did on Doug's video. That was great. I sent that over to him. I'm sure he'll be really uh, excited to receive it and see that.
good.
Um, so, what advice or what keeps you motivated when you are just having one of those days where, the gang stalking is so high, and, you're just trying to do what you need to do for your own self, and then you have all of this swirling around, and you're under heavy attack. How do you, what motivation, or what do you do to get through those moments?
For me, I lean really close to my religion, because God got me through this, and because really that's the only way that I could see myself getting out of this. Because you're in a situation where people mess with you, but they doing it in such a covert way that you
Mm-hmm.
can't really get any cops and anything like that. And I kind of want to tell this quick story. Before this all happened, I was kind of on the outs with my religion. I was religious, then I kind of left it, and I prayed to God and asked Him, God, just show me if you even exist, or if you're even real. And I mean, and He answered, because being in this situation, I read the Bible at least a chapter a day, and I always pray and thank Him and just ask Him, hey, of course, in the program, but also watch over like you and the other TIs and my family. Um, and what I think about is outside of myself, because you probably saw that video of that little kid, 11-year-old, who got tortured with the V2K.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I got really upset about, because I didn't even know. I thought it was just men and women. I didn't know they were torturing kids and pets. So that's I'm fighting for them. So that's really what I do. If I'm getting gang stalked and I'm getting upset or feel depressed and like I don't know if I can get through this time, I always remind myself, play that video in my head with that 11-year-old kid, And that kind of reignites my fire, because that's not right. And, so that's what motivates me. I fight for other people. So just
Absolutely.
posting videos and stuff like that, that's what helps me.
Absolutely. When the targeted happening to me, then it started happening to my elderly mother. And
Mm,
here this, and my mother we, lost my dad early. I was just barely, was just turning 20
mm,
and at the time. And so, my mother being a widow, she took care of her mother in the home, and her her mother's sister was such a caretaker and did so much for everybody. And then I was the only child, and then to see this happening to my mother after it was happening to me and
mm,
what they did to her, and
mm.
that she died knowing that her only child was still being attacked, and she was someone that I could really confide in with this, because she understood, because it was happening to her. And I always felt so bad that it was happening to her, as I felt it was because of me. But, it just makes no sense that elderly would be targeted in such a horrific way.
Yeah,
Law abiding, good people, good hearted people getting attacked. And like you said, children. Who would attack a children with these kinds of weapons and technology?
yeah,
And just it truly is evil. And like you said, it is a burning fire for me as well, for the elderly and for the children, and and pets who have this done to them as well. I mean, for everyone around the world, there if there's going to be a future for these children, we have got to get these programs shut down,
agreed.
because there won't be a future of humanity in the
Yeah.
direction things are going unless more exposure comes forward. And I strongly stand on God's promise that He
Mm,
sets the captives free. And I know that God has has revealed to me that He's going to make my enemies and everyone who's under these attacks the example, because you've got public attention saying truth and transparency, and that means real truth and transparency on all levels. Anything that harms any living being on this earth needs to be revealed, because this is not what God intended for us. And so we stand on His promise, and we will do the actions that we need to, while He does the big things in these reveals. And we'll be waiting on all of that. We have to be patient, and we have to be grateful, and we have to find ways to reconnect into our lives and plug back in from what has been taken from us. We cannot let these joy stealers, get to us. We got to, pick back up and get back in and step back in, so that we can do our part and we're ready. And like you said, it's very good to take a bad day and to recall what your mission is, what your goal is here. And that is in bringing awareness. And it's a very helpful reminder to anyone that by helping others and being there for others that are just new to this, and that is the most terrifying time for anyone. They
yeah,
are going through it all. Their whole world is imploding. And that is why those of us who have been at this for a while, some of us, many years and such, that's why we have to be there for them. If
yeah.
we can do anything to minimize that suffering that they're going through in that very beginning, when everything's imploding and
Mm,
things are escalating and they're moving into different phases of the targeting experience, then that's what we're here to do, in addition to expose it to the public. So that's where we have to take that reaction that we wanted to give, and we wanted to tell them, where to stick it, where the sun don't shine and all of that, right? Take that and go, if you get more incentive and then one more dollar just because I reacted, I'm going to rob you of that today and
Yeah,
not give them anything. Not give them anything that they can get satisfaction on, because you know what? We figured it out. We know. We
yeah,
know. And sometimes it's hard. You want to really engage, but if you do, it's okay. Get back up and disengage and disconnect. And keep on, get yourself recentered. You know what? I'm going to take, what is being done right to me right now, and I'm really frustrated and angry, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to post and share a
yeah,
couple of things out to the community. And that's how I'm going to transfer, this attack and turn it into something purposeful and for the good. And we're just transforming that over and over again, because we cannot give them the victory. We got to stay in the light and do our part.
yeah. Because
So
that's what
what?
motivates me. Okay.
Mhm. Yes. So what words of wisdom and advice would you give to the community?
Well, and what I was about to say is that the next time this program gets you upset, angry, sad, use that as a way, as a weapon, because that's one of the things I also was taught, is that you don't just get mad. Use that anger as a weapon. And what I mean is use that as to motivate you. Find
Mhm.
something, either find something that helps build you up to make you better, or use that to help someone out. So, if there's any goals that you've kind of been putting off, lean into that. Push, maybe write a book, watch a movie or make a movie, you know and for me, when gang stalkers do make me mad, I'm just like, you know what, let me drive home and let me get on my computer and let me put out a new video, because I know they hate that. They hate exposing any uh parts of the program. And because even last night I was having problems posting that targeted justice video because I got a temporary flag where my post won't get as much reach. They took it down 5 minutes later, but just silly stuff like that. But that's my weapon. That's why I love making videos now, because I know it helps someone else out, not just in the TI community, but I'm hoping to attract people outside of that. But
Mhm.
also, don't pay attention, just like that last video, that song, Our Eyes on You. I just fell in love with that song and I couldn't get it out of my head. I'm like, I got to make a video around this or do something. I got giddy like a schoolgirl when you told me about, oh, we need, something to do with Doug Jones. But I guess keep focus on the positive. Don't focus on the program, because that's what they want and that's how they get you.
Mhm.
When they gang stalk me, what helps me is I listen to Audible, like those books on tape, and I just focus on that. So that helps, and it also educating me, because I listen to that book that Anna always recommends, Government Gangsters, which is a
Mhm.
book that goes over the deep state, and then also the one with Tulsi Gabbard, called, real quick, For Love of Country, because I think you would really like that book if you haven't read it, because it goes over about God and how they want us to worship them like God, and they in competition with them. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's,
That's very good advice, and it's always, yeah. But building up the countermeasures is always about what can you divert your attention to that is healthy for you, and whether you have V2K, the gang stalking, like you said, and the directed energy attacks. We have to go into our, what it takes for us to shield. If under heavy attack, experimenting as best as you can, get creative. Again, if you're under attack where you feel like you're in no safe space, but then go outside and just try to look at nature and maybe walk. You've got to experiment around to get yourself out of that loop, that cycle, because when you focus on it, it just is like a magnet and making it worse. And in a lot of ways, it just seems like it just amplifies it in some way. Do you have any tips on like any countermeasures that you do with the gang stalking, or any property, or like your car? Is there anything that you do to take some precautions on in order to try to, limit what is being done in terms of the gang stalking?
I record everything, and because I feel like they are less likely to at least do anything major. Because like when I was driving, what they would do is they would instantly cut me off constantly, almost to the point where it seems like I could get into a car accident. I got a dashboard camera, and it's one of those cameras. It's like a 3-in-1. It's a camera. One's facing straight. You have two cameras that are adjustable, so you can kind of move it to the side, back, and front. So it's helpful with that if they try to do any street theater and stuff like that. And then at work, I usually put on my headphones, listen to music, or put in my earplugs to kind of block out the noise. And I'm either reading a book or I'm studying. So I just focus on what I need to do. And then I only talk or interact with people if I absolutely have to, because I'm still working. I still got to make a living. But if you are at a point where you're really upset, and if you can, maybe try to keep yourself inside, because you don't want to fall into their trap. But and also, go to tievents.org, get on one of these conference calls. One of my favorite ones is Look to the Problem Solver with moderator Samia. She runs a great conference call, because one of the things I like, I don't really listen to any other conference calls, but she always talks about every other conference call kind of is doom and gloom and talk about, just their targeting. They try to look for solutions. They try to find ways to fix that. And that's what I like and respect about it. So, I think it's important because you need to constantly interact with other TIs so you can get out, whatever issues you have going on, because you don't want to keep a bottle up inside. And you need to also constantly remind yourself, you're not the only one going through this. There's other TIs who are going through the same thing, so you're not alone. And that's one of the reasons, my motivations, I made that video for our Eyes on You, because I hate hearing stories about other TIs taking their lives and, committing suicide. And I understand that this isn't ideal life, but, this is what they want. And we got to stand together and be united and get this ended. So.
Yes, amen. I mean, that there is ways to, I know, and depending on the stage that, a targeted person might be into, you have to get to that place where you're like, okay, I'm not okay with this being my day-to-day routine, so I'm going to take some action to do something different.
Yeah.
And, some people have lost their job due to the attacks and everything too. But there are things that you can, do to start introducing yourself back into, the position of trying to look for something. Maybe start out volunteering, knowing that, okay, and just build up from there, and then look for opportunities. But with action, each day you should be focusing in on what your win was for the day. Whether it was you didn't lay down all day, feeling depressed, you got outside, you took a walk, you rode your bike, you did some laundry, you cleaned something, just something. Each day should have something that is a win in it. And then you just keep building win after win after win. Because the one thing that they don't want is for us to get our life back and to get back on track again, because we've defeated it, right? And then they try to test us, and then we have to know we're being tested, and then knowing that, okay, they're trying to do something, just keep pushing forward, because that's what it takes. And I personally, I know from my own experience too, I really had to call out. I had kind of, lost connection and had stopped, with, with church and with that connection with God. I had to seek him, because you really get into that where you've got to have God, you've got to call in, the higher power, right? To navigate this experience, because this is so ungodly what is being done to us. And it's so covert, it's so malicious and evil. But there's something so valuable about us. They want to analyze us and, do all of these things to us. But what they don't realize is God's favor is going to trump anything that they can do. And the exposure, we're making it. We're making waves out there. They're not happy. They would rather us just sit in silence and be in community with one another and discussing within our circle, right? But we're branching out, and we're like, we're not going to take this anymore. We're going to take a stand for our lives, and for those that have fallen, and for the children and the elderly and pets and everything that is being subjected to this. This is the time where things have been coming forward. We haven't gotten total disclosure, but we are chipping away at it. But this is the time and the season that it needs to be revealed. So this isn't the time for inaction. We have to rise up and get out there. And for those that are interested in becoming a digital warrior and giving back with the community, all it takes is you registering and creating an account on X, and follow all of us from Targeted Justice and Shaun and other digital warriors, and get plugged in. And you can create your own content, or you can just simply share and tag others, whether it be other TIs, but independent journalists, media, all of that. Go into where there's a good, heavy discussion that maybe it's just related to something that just recently came up and is being talked about, and just put information in that chat. That's how you start getting people gaining attention to it and gaining following on it, and it branches out. So you never know what you do when you make one post, and how it may have reached somebody that you're unaware of. But that's all we have to do, is just keep getting it out there. Shaun, do you have any advice on, the Digital Warrior campaign and doing posts or anything?
Yeah, because I kind of made the similar mistake. When you do repost, if it's like a video or anything, just maybe read through it real quick or watch it to make sure it doesn't have anything negative, because Targeted Justice is a peaceful protest. We're not trying to start any violence or anything. So I would just kind of look through the post before you repost it. And unfortunately, gang stalkers are going to follow you. They follow you everywhere. But any negative comments, you get just best to either ignore them, or, if they give like some type of criticism, just simply say thank you, or just, leave it alone. But yeah, pretty much, because it's really easy. And like you said, great job opportunity because you're building up experience. And like I said, if you bring your own talent, if you into video editing or graphic design, drawing, sketching, if I'm kind of playing around with AI and using Grok, so I'm trying to get that down so I can add more features to it, because I'm always growing. I'm always trying to look for what can I do in this video that I haven't done in my other videos before to make it more engaging, more fun. So, but that's pretty much.
Yes, and go ahead. I was going to
Yeah,
say.
and just real quick, also kind of get to know all the other digital warriors like Anna and Darren and all the other ones. Start with them first, because they trusted being a tight knit group, so you can kind of bounce ideas off of them and ask them, is this a good thing to post and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Yes, definitely. We have so many that are in the community that just have so much talent. I myself have been looking for ways that we could showcase some talent, like music and musicians and who want to maybe do a podcast and have a music event, people who do artwork and paint, draw, sketch, create digital content. There's so many things that when you're under attack, you just really need to tap into your own creativity and remember what are those things that you like to do. When you were young, did you like to, draw and paint or dance? And you got to tap back in. You got to play. You got to find a way to get back into that playfulness and tap into your creativity, or maybe just learn a new hobby, because then you can engulf and put that creativity and that passion into that hobby as well. And it's very therapeutic. And then, get moving. It's so important when our bodies are stressed from attack. Then we got to get out and get moving as best as we can, or do it indoors. But there are ways that you could even do stress relief and just simple techniques that are yoga based, just by shaking your shoulders and your hands and just let that dissipate off of you. Grounding is very important. If all else fails, and just go put your bare feet in the grass, because the earth will absorb all of that stress and the radiation too. You have to take moments for yourself, and watch a favorite movie or listen to some music, and make sure that you are incorporating those into your day to stay connected to yourself. Because with all of that is circulating around outside of the targeted experience, there's a lot going on in the world. So that's a lot of anxious people, because some of these people, when they're receiving this information, it's taking them a moment to digest it, because they believe one thing all of their life. We're a little bit more open to the things that have been dropping in the last couple of months, because we ourselves are like a cover-up secret, right? So we know what's possible in all things government related, because we are one of those, try to cover that up and not talk about it, and squash out anybody trying to bring it to attention. But we are so much strength in numbers that they can't make us be quiet, because we've had enough. I'm not sitting down and, being deluded, and just being quiet and sitting in a corner anymore about this. I'm going to get out and I'm going to speak about it. And that is where our free will choice kicks in. And that is the one thing they can't play. They cannot plan for that. No matter what attack is being used, they cannot plan for our free will choice. They might be able to try to, pattern, think about how we may respond or make a move, even if we aren't paying attention to them, but they're never going to be able to take away spontaneous, action from us. So be spontaneous. They can't stand spontaneity, right? You
Right.
mix up your routine, instead of going the same old way every day, I'm going to, mix that up, catch it off guard, mix up your own routine. I know I can be very much, I like to do X, Y, Z every morning. So sometimes I have to catch myself and try to mix things up too. So it's just, don't get into the rut, the predictable rut, because they love our predictableness, right? So spontaneous is key. Is
And
there,
I just wanted to add, because one of my favorite parts on the Our Eyes on You video is that speech that you made, because when I added that music, it sounded so awesome. I wish I might have to start looking for some good motivation music and just put it behind your preaching, because it will work. I think make like maybe clips and put it out there. So.
Oh, that would be fantastic. The music that you use in the news is great too.
Yeah.
I just love the music component and all the videos that you've done. You've always had that, and it's been so great.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everything that you do for the Chosen Heroes. It makes a big difference because sometimes people just don't have time to, go through a whole episode, but you make it so much more easily accessible and digestible too for the content, because there's a lot in it. Is there anything that you'd like to share in parting words today?
Not really. I wish I did. I mean, I did this all random, but so I guess just like I said, don't give up. Stick with it. I believe everyone keeps saying it, and I believe that we almost at the finish line. I think this program is coming to an end. We slowly starting to get exposure, but we just had to keep going, but also step in, help out. Even just writing a letter, or reposting something would make so much of a difference. So just stay, or even if you're going through a hard time, just keep in touch with watching these shows, or just stay up to date with what's going on. Because you'll find, like if you go to targetedjustice.substack.com, there's a bunch of news articles, over 500, and you'll see different tactics that will help you out. So.
Yes, absolutely. Targeted Justice has a lot of information out there, a lot of videos on Rumble, YouTube, and X, and then also plug into the community with tievents.org. Tranquility does such an amazing job with that website, and I'm telling you, almost every single day of the week there is something out there, and sometimes there's so many good options. I wish I could attend them all, but there's so much out there, and that's how this is how you combat the attacks being done to you, by plugging in and getting the support that you need from who else that understands what you're going through better than this community. And it's such a loving community too, and so supportive. I see it all the time throughout the chats and responses with the posts on X, and people are engaging and lifting one another up. We know what this is like, so we are equipped to help others. And when you see someone struggling, just say hi and tell them that, I'll pray for you, and I'm thinking about it. Can I help What can I do? Do you need someone to talk to? Just those type of things is how we make a difference, because we're not going to suffer in silence anymore. We're making waves, and we're using the most powerful weapon we have, which is our voice and our hands to type and write and to get the word out. Shaun, thank you so much for attending today and on
Thank
such
you.
short notice. You've just been a true delight. And again, thank you for all the hard work that you do. You're such an asset to Targeted Justice and to the Chosen Heroes and everything that you do for this community. And God bless you for that. And thank you for joining today.
Thank you. You guys have been very helpful, Targeted Justice, and so are you. You guys are doing God's work, so I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else does too.
All right. Thanks so much, and much appreciated. God bless everybody, and it's always an honor and privilege each week to speak to each and every one of you. And I pray for all of you that God give you the action steps that you need to take, give you that guidance, and to show you your next steps. We are in this fight together. We are not alone. Love to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.